good evening, and welcome once again to another edition of our Government at Work program. A program brought to you by the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and hosted by yours truly, Keith Scarborough. It's a program designed to inform and educate all citizens and residents of Nevis, both at home and abroad, of the many positive developments that are taking place here on the island of Nevis. It's another wonderful Thursday evening here in Nevis, and it's a time when we all look forward to a night filled with information as it pertains to the continued good governance of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration. We are aware, of course, that there are those who prefer to indulge in their own creative negatives, but on this program we make every effort to ask the right questions, get the right answers that would give our listeners and viewers a true reflection of what is really happening in the land we all call home. We look forward each week to continue to go into deep discussions with the ministers of government, the advisors, the permanent secretaries, the department heads, as well as top officials from the various statutory corporations here on the island of Nevis. This program is usually broadcast live on VON Radio every Thursday evening from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Then we broadcast on Nevis Television on Sunday evenings from 8:30 p.m. This and other Government at Work programs, as well as our Bird's Eye View programs, can also be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and NTV webpage. We shall take a short break, and when I return, I shall introduce my guests for this evening's program to you. So stay locked on to the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, 860 AM.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There's something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Folks, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening the Director of Agriculture here in Nevis, Mr. Randy Elliott. Mr. Elliott, good evening and welcome to our Government at Work program.
Good evening, Mr. Scarborough, and good evening to the general public who are listening to us this evening. It's a pleasure to be here on your program.
It's a pleasure having you as well, especially since this is your first time here. I didn't even realize that. I thought you were here before, but it's your first time, so I want to give you a special welcome to our Government at Work program.
Thank you.
We have quite a lot to get into this evening. This evening is about, of course, the upcoming Agro Fest. So, Mr. Elliott, we are just 1 week away from the premier event for the Ministry and the Department of Agriculture, the ever popular Agro Fest. So, you being my guest this evening is quite timely. I want to start by asking you to give us an update on how the preparations are going at this point.
Well, preparations have been going quite well. You said 1 week away, but really and truly we are just 6 days away from the event. But preparations have been going quite well. The patrons, the vendors and so forth, they have been responding quite well to the call in terms of registration and so forth. So in terms of the other divisions and so forth within the department, we're ready. You're ready? You're ready.
Okay. You spoke of registration just now. Registration for both vendors is now closed.
Yes.
So give us an idea of how many vendors we could expect to see this year, roughly.
Well, this year, in terms of paid vendors, the numbers have increased significantly as compared to the previous years and compared to last year. In previous years, we would have had something like 40 plus vendors, paid vendors. This year, when we look at our final count thus far, we're up to 70 paid vendors.
Wow.
This have nothing to do with the other government ministries, sponsors, and so forth, and persons who have booths who are free, the ally agencies and so forth. So the 70 plus, about 75 booths that are paid for. So it clearly shows that the event is growing And we still have persons who even come into there, looking to see if they could find spots.
As usual, the latecomers. I observed that there was a meeting with, if not all, most of the vendors this morning. Enlighten us a little as to the purpose of that meeting.
Well, the meeting this morning was to first interact with our vendors. Again, most times persons come and pay. They just go to one specific office and just pay and so forth. And that's the normal transaction. This morning meeting, it was for us to be able to meet, interact with our vendors, indicate the do and don'ts as it relates to the usage of the park and so forth, the distribution of their passes for them to enter, distribution of the vehicle passes and so forth, timing in terms of when they're able to come in the park to bring their stuff, security issues, the entry gates, the exit gates, and those sort of things.
I saw my good friend Mr. Lescott there speaking this morning. He's part of the security.
Yes, he is.
Session. Okay. Now, which anniversary is the department celebrating this year?
Well, this year we're doing our 29th anniversary. Again, we would have been up to 31 if it wasn't for COVID. But this year we are 29.
Okay, so next year being the 30th, I expect it's going to be a big thing. Any plans for that one as yet?
We're trying to close the chapter of 29 first, and then we are proceed to 30.
Fair enough. Now, you mentioned earlier about paid vendors, and you have some unpaid vendors. Who are they with?
Well, some the unpaid vendors, again, those would be like allied agencies, organizations that we work with closely. Okay. Like, for instance, you have AICA, you have CADI, you have the persons who are with the JEP program, the Green Climate Fund. Those are who would help to support our farmers group in terms of grant funding and so forth for us to continue to develop the sector, etc.
Okay, great, understood. Now, the Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, was here a few weeks ago, and he told us who the patron was and what the theme was. But for those who may not have heard, could you repeat it one more time?
Well, the theme this year is a new era, leveraging technology for sustainable and inclusive agriculture. And when we look at the entire theme in terms of utilizing technology, again, for us to be able to be sustainable in what we are doing, the patron that was selected was quite fitting. It was none other than Mr. Daniel Atherton, who would have had quite a number of years as it relates to being a part of the Department of Agriculture, being a key player in terms of the development of the marketing unit, and now a farmer and entrepreneur who have been doing sustainable practices on his farm as it relates to water harvesting, drip irrigation, solar panels, and these sort of things. So when we look at the theme, we believe that Mr. Daniel was most fitting for this year as our patron.
Fair enough. Now, the opening ceremony for this grand event is always a very special occasion. So could you shed some light for us on that? What can we expect to see this time around?
Well, the opening ceremony is basically for us to welcome individuals. Again, to indicate, it's an opportunity for us to indicate what we would have done within the last year within the sector. I know sometimes the minister would do the presentations in December for the budget debates, but it's also an opportunity for us to be able to repeat in terms of what we have done within the year, some of the plans and challenges that we would have had, and what we are planning to do for the upcoming year. So we'll see speeches this year from myself. You'll see speeches from the minister. You'll also see some instrumental playing from our very young, talented Miss Daniel, Ariana Daniel, also. So again, but the ceremony this year, what we are anticipating that will be short, because I know sometimes people like to say, "Oh, we didn't come to hear all these speeches." So we are targeting 30 minutes, 45 minutes maximum.
I was going to ask you who will be the featured speaker, but based on what you're saying, the minister will.
Yes, the minister will.
Okay, good. Now, we normally see a large delegation coming from Statia attending and participating in this grand affair, and I'm certain this year won't be any different. But are you aware of any other group or groups that will be attending the opening ceremony from overseas?
Well, for now, we have the interest also coming from Sabre. We also have some individuals from St. Martin. Again, sometimes when we have the event, you may have persons reaching out from different territories, and then something you may have different territories that just pop in. Like 1 year we had a delegation from Trinidad. We also had one, I think, from Grenada also 1 year that they just popped in. So sometimes during the event you just find persons that just pop in there, hear of the event, and they just show up to see exactly what is it we're doing here on the island of Nevis.
Okay. And you expect your counterparts from St. Kitts to be participating as well?
Of course, they're always there in support.
Okay, great. Now, the Department of Agriculture have several units, and I'm sure all of them will be presented as usual at this event. So let us look at each one and tell our listening and viewing audience what they can expect to see when they come to the gates of the ETW Park on Thursday, March 27th, and Friday, March 28th. Let's start with the abattoir unit, because that unit normally sells off its various meats real fast. So tell us a little about the type of meats we can expect to.
I actually wanted to leave the abattoir for last because and that's the last individual I spoke to this evening. And in speaking to Mr. Griffin, he indicated that if open day was to be held tomorrow morning, he's ready. He's ready. Again, Mr. Griffin has a range of products in terms of meats, beef, ground beef, sausage, burgers, pork, as it relates to whether grain pork chops. I think we also did we call them spare ribs and those sort of things, bacons, and there are 2 new products that he's going to be showcasing this year also. One is a poultry product as it relates to its roll smoked chicken, and also lamb sausage also that he'll be featured this year at the event. Again, Mr. Griffin, he would have indicated that sales for him would begin at 6:30 in the morning, because every year we have quite a few persons coming over from the sister isle of St. Kitts to shop and to buy the stuff to just return to St. Kitts on the 7 o'clock boat or 7:30 boat. So Mr. Griffin would have indicated from 6:30 he'd be more than ready to sell next week Thursday.
And I'm happy you mentioned that time, because I was going to ask you what time the ceremony starts, and I think it's about
9:30.
9:30.
Yes, ceremony
so
is 9:30.
By the time you come for the opening ceremony, all the abattoir products would have gone.
well, as he would have indicated, there are persons that come to the event. There are some persons that come to the event for different reasons. For some at the abattoir, some just come just for
to get the meats and so forth.
Just to get some of the products, maybe the rotisserie stuff, the smoked stuff and so forth, because again, it's very difficult to get these things locally in St. Kitts. So you have quite a bit of persons from St. Kitts coming over, and then you have the few in Nevis who tell themselves, hey, I have to go in early before all finish. But we'll have products from the abattoir all day. We also have a demonstration from the abattoir in terms of the preparation of the new product, the new lamb product, and we'll also have some giveaways from the abattoir also.
Great. Now, the intention is always to have enough meats for the 2 days, but normally on the first day, it's all gone. Any guarantees that, we'll have meats for the 2 days?
It's never guaranteed that we'll have meat for the 2 days. Last year, we were successful in doing so. We sent out a call to our local farmers, or local farmers would have answered the call, and we actually had a good supply of meat for both days. Mr. Griffin would have indicated that in terms of what he's projecting for the 2 days, he already has that in stock. But again, you have new customers and so forth, and some of these new customers are heavy purchasers.
True. Now, the department will normally have some fish available for sale as well, and that too sells very fast.
Well, in speaking to Deputy Director Mr. Maynard this afternoon as it relates to fish, and I think when we spoke to the fisheries complex again, fish are expected to to be in next week. Again, the numbers, we are not sure on the numbers, knowing that, again, this is Lent season. Sometimes is a difficulty in terms of catching fish within the numbers. But you'll have, like, for instance, the anticipating snapper, hindfish and those sort of grunt and so forth. So they're anticipating that they'll have these fish available along some of the byproducts from the fisheries complex, the fish balls and the fish burgers. Again, I would have tried them myself. They are very good products.
Okay. Let me ask you, do you have a limit on how much an individual could purchase? And I ask that question because I know when it comes to fish, some people want to buy the entire thing.
One of the things we try to encourage is not necessarily a limit, but we want to ensure that everybody that come could get something.
Sure.
But it may not last for everybody. So it's a first come, first basis. If somebody come and want the full stock, I don't think them guys will sell the full stock. No, but we want to ensure that as much persons as possible benefit.
Right. And the fish sale starts at 6:30 as well?
No, the fish sales start a little later.
A little later.
A little later.
Okay, all right, great. Now, the AgroFest is also a major event for the agro-processors. It gives them that opportunity to show off their products. Any idea what type of a juice we can expect to see from them this year?
Well, again, from our end, we are seeing in terms of tacos and so forth, and utilizing products coming from our abattoir. The order has been placed from agro processing to the abattoir already in terms of the meat. So those meats will be transferred next week to agro processing. We're also looking at some of the breads. We're looking at some smoothies. We're looking at a new product that they're doing again is mango cheese. Again, we continue to find creative ways to utilize the fruits that we have on the island of Nevis and so forth. So there'll be quite a range of products coming from the agro processing unit. But as it relates to processors on a whole, I must say kudos to that group of individuals because last year our patron was agro processor.
Yes.
And sadly, we only had 2 agro processors at the event. This year, we've been now seeing persons who are into processing that we didn't even know. So we're up to about 9 this year in terms of new persons who are in the business of agro processing. So I just want to say kudos to that particular group for the work and effort that they have been doing and the willingness in terms of coming forward to showcase themselves at the Agricultural Expo.
Sure. Now, the sale of plants and fruit trees is normally a big thing at the AgroFest every year. What type of fruit trees? I myself normally buy some because I like to purchase the fruit trees. What type of fruit trees and plants are we likely to see this year?
Well, the fruit trees and so forth, you're going to see, some of the norms like the sugar apple, the soursop and so forth, the passion fruit, etc., the bread nut and so forth. We'll also have some guava, some large guavas, probably weighing up to a pound, and 1 pound in terms of when they're fruiting. We'll also have mangoes and so forth. We'll also have avocado. Again, we may not have the numbers that we would have had within the past. And one of the reasons being is that last year was a very dry year. And in terms of the plants, in terms of following their normal productive cycle, you would have had some plants producing out of season. And again, it was difficult to be able to harness a material for us to be able to do grafting and so forth. Also, again, we would have lost the individual who would have been within that unit for quite a while. Ms. Rhonda Vifas would have been in that unit for a while again. So we are now with some new individuals. Again, the unit is headed by Ms. Heidi Tyson. Again, they have been doing the very best to ensure that there's no gaps in terms of from last year to this year on their end. But as I said, there's some gaps because of the change in terms of the reproductive cycle of some of these plants.
Okay, great. Now, on the poultry side of things, the kids in particular look forward each year. They get real excited just looking at those animals. Are those animals all from the Department of Agriculture or some are privately owned?
The Department of Agriculture, we as a department, we strive on partnership. So a number of stuff that you'll see there in terms of some of, especially within the exotic and so forth, these animals belonging to farmers, and farmers are willing to showcase their animals. There are some who are still a bit timid in terms of coming and putting their face behind of the animals, but
they should be happy, man.
But we showcase, well, I think in some of the cases that, for instance, a farmer may not want to come and say, hey, this is my foal, this is my goat or whatever, because they don't want anybody to target the pens thereafter.
Okay.
So we showcase the animals on the behalf of the farmers, and that within itself, it shows the confidence that those farmers have within the livestock and veterinary clinic in terms of being able to lend them their animals, whether 2,000 value animal, 3,000 value animal, just to showcase to the people of Nevis, especially persons who are interested in starting up in terms of animal rearing, or even the children to stimulate that excitement. Because again, sometimes when you look, some of these farmers now that you see, especially some of these younger farmers, are persons who I would have seen as children actually walking through and looking at these animals. So when you see them now at this age actually want to get into animal or have animal, then you know for a fact that the intended purpose of the expo is being accomplished.
Okay, great. Now, the vegetable stalls are mostly occupied by our local farmers. So how many vegetable stalls are you expecting to have this year?
Well, we're up to about 10 vegetable farms, farmers. We're up to 10 this year. Again, similarly, there are some farmers, they prefer growing and allow someone to sell the produce. So you have some farmers selling produce on the behalf of farmers. And then you have some farmers selling farmers' produce in terms of as a group, right? Again, there are some farmers who do not like that spotlight in terms of facing the public and so forth.
Yeah, understood. Now, the department itself normally have its own stall with agricultural produce. You will normally see quite a bit of watermelons and sorrel coming from your stall. What can we expect to see this year?
Well, this year, again, we would have started our harvest already for our products. We have quite a bit of pumpkin, we have quite a bit of carrots, we have tomatoes, we have watermelons. The melons that you're going to see is a slight different to the normal melon that you know. That one with it's yellow outside and green and it's red inside. We have cantaloupe. We also have sweet potatoes and so forth. But again, one of the things that persons do visit our booth for, and there's a saying that if we don't have it, we don't have anything, and that's the onions.
The onion.
Right. So our onions, we started cleaning the onions from Monday. We already have maybe about 3/4 of what we anticipate already in stock, and we continue tomorrow into next week to ensure.
Okay, great. Now I want to divert from the stalls now and look at the entertainment that will be provided for the patrons on day one. Tell us a little about that entertainment.
Well, the entertainment in terms of
cultural performance
and so forth. We normally work closely with the NCDF, and now they are part of our ministry. The working relationship is even closer now, and it's an opportunity for us to continue outside of Culture Armor, for us to continue to showcase the talents that we have here on the island of Nevis. So we'll be seeing like, for instance, masquerade, cakewalk and so forth on the Thursday, and then you'll see similar acts like the Mako Jumbi and so forth on the Friday. Yeah.
Okay. You normally have some entertainment for the kids as well, such as the bouncing castle, etc. Will there be any of that this time around?
That area again within itself, I actually got in some trouble for that area. I actually got in some trouble this year for that area, because we would have loosened up that area a little more this year as it relates to the number of persons that are taking part within that area. But we believe that when one comes to the event, the adults going to go and look at what they're going to look at. The children also want to be entertained. So you're seeing things like bouncing castle, playing with balloons, playing with bikes, horse riding, the trampoline, and these sort of things. So these are just some of the things that you would have seen. And again, we would have increased the numbers behind there. Maybe we would have had an additional 4 individuals behind here compared to what we would have added before. Again, because of the constraint of space of the park, then that area will not be able to expand much more.
Okay. Now, when the minister was here a couple of weeks ago, he spoke of the elimination for the domino competition. I understand it's supposed to have started early today.
No, it's starting on Saturday.
Saturday? Oh, I thought it was today.
No, it's starting on Saturday.
Do you have any information on that? For example, how many teams have registered, the location of the eliminations, and how many teams will be chosen to go forward to the semi-finals at the end of the elimination?
The registration is still open.
Oh, it's still open?
Yeah, registration is still open because, again, the elimination starts on Saturday, right over Bat at Friends Bar.
Okay.
That's right up the road by Baker. So teams are still free. Feel free to contact Kurt. That's Customs Officer Kurt.
Okay, Kurt Grant.
Kurt Grant, right. or if you can get in contact with him, you could contact Eto,
okay.
Also Baker.
Okay.
These are individuals that you could also contact. Per teams is 75 EC per teams, and again the prices are very attractive, and we wouldn't been able to do it without the sponsorship of the Finish Touch and Brands Architecture.
Okay, spell out the prices for those who are listening and thinking of registering. Spell out the prices.
Well,
so
the prices for first place, for the team of first place, $1,500. The team for second is $1,000. The team for third is $700, and the team for fourth is $300.
Okay, great. Now, you normally have a few raffles each year. What are you raffling this year?
Well, this year, the raffles, we already looked at the animals. We already did the promotion in terms of the animals. You're looking at the Red Angus, one Red Angus or one Red Pole, male or female. Again, the raffles are very cheap. It's $10 in terms of for the cattle. You're also looking at for the pigs is 5 EC, and you're also looking at the goat. Also, I think is at 5 EC. Tickets are available at the office at Department of Agriculture or any staff that's at the veterinary clinic.
Okay, and what's the cost of the ticket?
Tickets again, 10 and 5. 10 and 5. Again,
and where can purchase that ticket?
You could purchase tickets at the Department of Agriculture, the main office, at the veterinary clinic, there in Prospect. Again, $10 for animal valuing over $1,500. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is the entrance fee for this year's AgroFest?
The entrance fee this year is very cheap. Like when you look at, for instance, the experience that you're going to achieve and so forth. The entrance fee is only $5 on the entrance fees. The children in uniform, all children in uniform, again, which include the normal uniform or the PE uniform. Again, those individuals will enter free. Also, yeah, so once they're in uniform, they enter free. The teachers will enter free, and once they have the students with them. But the general entrance fee is $5. We're still trying to see if we could put a raffle again on your ticket when you enter. In the past, we would have done that. Persons would have won telephones. Persons would have won different products and so forth in the past.
Great. Now, we spoke of entertainment on day one a little earlier. What about day two?
Well, come back to day one. We have two DJs in day one. You have the host DJ, Rec Life, and then in the evening you have DJ Woodis. And on the Friday, again, you will have different cultural acts during the day, and you also have X-ray Reloaded during the day. Later in the evening, you have the Grandmasters later in the evening, and then thereafter you have your level sounds.
Level sounds. Okay, I thought I heard that collision band will probably be as well.
Not as yet.
Not as yet.
Not
okay.
as yet.
Okay. Now, you yourself, let me ask you this first. What time do you cut off on both days?
Well, on both days, on the Thursday, we go until 10.
10 o'clock.
10 p.m. We go until 10. And on Friday, and we go until 12.
Until 12.
12 midnight.
Okay, great.
So persons feel free, like for instance, as I said, some persons come to shop, they shop, they go home, they get ready, they go to work, they come back after 4, or some go home and then come back to the event. The option is all yours, but we are going to be there at the ETW Park.
Okay, great. Now, we spoke of the vegetable stalls earlier, but normally there's some food stalls as well. On the
food stalls, again, one of the things we ensure this year that the persons that were granted permission to sell, we try to ensure that, again, we're able to have food for all range of individuals, from those who eat the meat, the pork, the chicken, from those who eat the fish, because you have fisheries there. You have the young lady from the Incredic Road with the seafood boils, and we also have the Rastas will be there, and you have the vegetarian spot there. So again, it's a one-stop place. So again, it caters for all of your diet needs. For those who need something light, again, the agro processors will be there with smoothies and so forth. Okay. For those who just want a fruit, the farmers will be there with fruits also. Okay,
sounds good. Now, you normally have a stall to the west that does sample cooking. Persons gather there to
that stall is still there. That's the food demo stall. We have quite a bit of individuals who will be taking part, quite a bit of hotels that are on board. Like for instance, the Four Seasons is on board with that as it relates to demonstration. Chef Henville is on board. And one of the things that we do, especially like for instance, as we spoke of the new product from the abattoir, that's one of the product that persons will be able to see how it's prepared. Again, some of these chefs will be using like different things, or maybe green banana, pumpkin, etc., indicating to individuals outside of the traditional way that we may think or we may use these products. There are other ways that these products could be used. Again, once completed, again, samples will be there for, it's not samples to feed the entire park.
I know.
But samples. So persons who have the opportunity to taste these demos.
What about the drink side of it? You have demos for the drink side, mixing drinks? And
No.
You don't have that?
No, we don't.
Okay. Now, the Taiwanese normally have a sort of medical presence there, a booth that does some blood pressure tests. The
Taiwanese would be there in various forms. Again, you have the Taiwanese there in terms of the agricultural projects that they are taking on currently, such as the producing of eggs. You have them there as it relates to the recycling project that's happening here in Nevis, and you also have them there as it relates to the health part of it. Again, all these are different projects that the Taiwanese are working here in St. Kitts and Nevis, so they'll be here to showcase the various projects that they're taking part in.
Right. And you normally have some booths as well that just have literature, different...
Yes, you have, like, for instance, some of our continued allied agencies, for instance, CADI, in terms of different materials, in terms of those who are interested in backyard and those sort of things, farmers, or even you who just may have an interest in terms of growing a crops and so forth. All that will be there.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Mr. Elliott, we have been speaking about quite a bit about the AgroFest and the various agricultural produce that we can expect to see. However, the ever presence of the monkeys and the donkeys that has been reaping havoc on our agricultural produce, and our local farmers are crying out for help. What, if anything, is the department doing to help alleviate this growing problem? It is really a problem, despite the fact that we are doing so wonderfully with agriculture right now. There's still those two disgusting little animals.
These two animals, we have classified them as significant pests in terms of towards the agricultural sector, and it is just not an agriculture in terms of commercial agricultural issue. It's an issue that affects every individual here on the island of Nevis. Maybe you just have one mango tree in your yard, or you have a grow box in your yard, etc. It's a problem that's affecting all of us. So one of the things that we are looking at, during the expo, there'll be an area dedicated specifically in terms of monkey control. Different things that persons could do at home as it relates to monkey control. Also, in terms of when you look from what the department are doing, we are currently in discussion right now, because what we want to do is to that act that's there is to basically have wardens attached to the Department and Ministry of Agriculture, and these persons we're anticipating that will go and deal with these animals, these donkeys and monkeys, but not just those, but also these monkeys, these animals that you have roaming on the streets.
Let me ask you this: is there anywhere is there any country on the outside who we could export these monkeys to? I remember once upon a time we used to export donkeys, I think, to Guadeloupe or something like that. Is there anywhere we could find somebody in the outside who enjoys eating these monkeys? A delicacy for them?
Some of the issues, and when you look at, for instance, in terms of consumption of animals, one have to look at a health issue and so forth, and one have to ensure that the animals are properly inspected. The nutrition or the diet of the animal will have to be known in terms of before you start to really put these within the food system. So it's a little more complex than just taking animals and move them for food.
Yeah, but I was not talking about food here in Nevis. I was talking about if there's any country outside.
Likewise,
So
because case scenario, like for instance, we import, like for instance, meat and chicken from overseas. These animals have to be vetted. These animals have to be inspected before selling here. So when one look at it, again, it's a process that one will have to go through. It's a process where probably the receiving country or the country that we are going to export to may even send their technicians here to look
examine
at
first.
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, similarly, we are understanding that I forget what word you use for the sheep and goats.
Small ruminants.
Small ruminants. The dogs has been attacking those severely. Is anything that the Department of Agriculture could do to assist these unfortunate persons who are losing their stocks?
It's a twofold approach. And while we condemn in terms of the dogs, in terms of using these animals as, sometimes we call it sport, because sometimes you find dog attacks and dogs are not really consuming the animals. Again, so sometimes we look at it as the dog just having sport is within the nature. But again, we also have to look at these livestock farmers who just have the animals on the road walking. And again, so it's a twofold approach where dog owners have to ensure that their dogs are properly secured. That's one. And then the other approach is these livestock farmers have to ensure that the animals are properly penned, are properly in paddocks. Sometimes you find farmers, you have some exceptions where dogs will actually get into a farmer pen. You have some exceptions of that.
Yeah.
And again, but most of the times is sometimes some of these dog attacks is where farmers have animals, they open their pen, and sometimes some probably don't even check to see if the animals reach back home. So some of these attacks happen like on the way home, in the bushes, animals sleeping on the road at night, because we all drive around the island of Nevis, and we all see it. But again, it's a two approach that dog owners will have to secure the animals, and that is why we're looking at the area of having wardens, where they now will be able to all these animals you have walking on the street. That's it's a problem for all of us. Maybe the cattle, the goat, the sheep, or even these dogs, is to have them appropriately controlled.
Yeah, let me ask you this. As you mentioned that, because we all see the normal, the amount of sheep and goat that walk on the street and so forth. Is there any penalty for that?
If you were to read the what's documented now is the appropriate act is to have these animals impound, right? Again, sometimes persons have difficulties because they might say they may not have any transport. They might say, they're probably afraid of a cattle, or these animals don't have any rope on them. It's difficult to chase them and so forth. So again, once we have these wardens in place, then give more authority to the wardens, where for instance, these animals are always walking in this area, in terms of being able to capture that entire herd and have that entire herd impound, and thereafter we have conversations with the owner, because sometimes you have persons who are getting into farming and still don't have lands, or something. You may have persons who have lands, but the number of animals that they have is just too much for
the space that they have.
We encourage, just so we encourage our crop farmers to do things in a sustainable manner. Similarly, we're encouraging our livestock farmers to operate accordingly, and not just do it as a hobby or because you like doing it, but it has to come a point where they start to look at it as a business. Sure. Again, the abattoir is always open, meat is always in demand. Again, the extension officers are there at the livestock division that could actually help the farmers in terms of selecting animals that could be remain as breeders, selecting animals that could pass in terms of to slaughter, or even get into just breeding, like in terms of breeding animals and selling the young ones to other farmers and so forth. But it doesn't make any sense for a farmer to have access to 1 acre or half acre and have over 100 or 400 animals, because you're only causing destruction on the island.
Sure. Now, before we take our break, we used to have something called the pound. You mentioned it earlier. Do we still have a pound?
Yes, the pound is still there. Currently, the pound is situated in Maddens.
In Maddens?
In Maddens.
Okay. All right. Folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest this evening is Mr. Randy Elliott, Director of Agriculture here in Nevis. We shall take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here on Government at Work.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Mr. Elliott, during the COVID-19 pandemic, quite a few persons took to agriculture to make a living. Now that the country has returned to normal, some persons has gone back into the service industry. What would you say is the current status of our agriculture produce as we speak? Is it still going as we speak, or has it fallen off a bit simply because the service industry is open up again?
It's a bit sad in terms of when one see things unfold as it relates to in terms of the sense of during COVID, where reality actually hit us that, hey, agriculture is our way out. It was an opportunity that we welcomed individuals within the agricultural sector. And you would have heard the minister said before, the current minister, you'd have heard the premier would have mentioned it before, the previous minister, in terms of the various things that we would have done during COVID. And one of the things I like to let people know is that each one of these programs that we do at the department is the utilization of revenue from taxpayers, right? So we would have done quite a bit. And the fact that individuals realize that when there was chaos as it relates to COVID, agriculture was the way out. And it's sad now to see that things have looked back in terms of things are now somewhat back to normal. Persons forgot in terms of agriculture. We continue in terms of our efforts, in terms of our farmers, and we realize that a number of our farmers would have continued in terms of production. A number of our farmers would have continued. But where we saw the significant change is that it relates to persons in backyards. We saw quite a significant change in terms of backyards. You find persons now saying, oh, they don't have time, they're busy, or all these kind of things. One of the things I always say that we have to come to a point where we understand that we should be able to feed ourselves. And based on what's happening outside there currently in terms of globally, it is probably going to a point even probably worse than COVID. And we have to understand that we have to feed ourselves. Some time back, I was fortunate to be doing some reading, and piece of information I came across was quite shocking. In terms of, it was during the same time of the American Revolution towards independence, 1776. Record will show that you had between 300 to 400 persons on the island of Nevis that died from starvation.
On the island of Nevis?
On the island of Nevis, that died from starvation. And this is all because of the war in the US, in the war of rebellion.
You couldn't get nothing to eat.
Couldn't get no food shipped to the island. And it is something that we have to hold dear to our heart, and it's something that we have to ensure that history do not repeat itself. Again, we as a people, we are people of resilience, and we are people that we have to understand that we have to utilize what we have. Sometimes you go around and you see these breadfruits, etc., 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 and a lot of us move away from consuming those things.
True.
Right? But again, we have to pause again for a while and realize that we have to be able to feed ourselves. Despite you have the booms in the service industry, etc., you cannot and you should never go too far from basics, which is being able to feed yourself.
True. And I thought some of them were doing so well, and I don't think they understand. They did it because of the circumstances.
Yes.
But the direction they were heading would have profited them more than where they're going now. Because
when you look now, for instance, at the agricultural depot, you still have some that still continue. And when you look at persons walking out the agricultural depot, right there in Prospect, with checks of $400, $500, and these are things coming from the small little yard. Maybe a yard space of 15 by 15 and so forth. Maybe they're just bringing in ripe papaya, green papaya, and so forth. Again, so the opportunity is there because quite a bit of persons still stuck with it, but you still have those that would have abandoned what they were doing in the yard.
They didn't have the laws
No.
that is needed
No,
for
no.
agriculture. It was
No.
a necessity at the time.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate because agriculture is big. Okay. Now, what we're seeing increasing though is the shade houses. We are seeing some local farmers doing very well in that shade business. Speak to that for us.
The shade house sector and the island of Nevis, it is something that is revolutionizing the agricultural sector. Again, it's a new sector in terms of within agriculture. Well, we don't really call it shade houses now. We just look at it as protected agriculture.
Okay.
Protected in the sense that a farmer might be having issues with various things. So a farmer might have an issue in terms of pests. Pests is his problem, so he will shade accordingly to help to block some pests from coming in the house. Another farmer may have his issue may be heat, so he may just use a material on the top just to help with the heat. But one of the things that we realize is that it's a new breed of farmers also, and it's a new breed of non-traditional farmers, and the entire mentality of this cadre of farmers is very different to the traditional farmers. These cadre farmers believe in growth, development, and they're not afraid to take risks. When you visit, especially these protection structures, these are farmers who have the records down to a T in terms of production records, sale records, and so forth. These are farmers that have these down to a T, right? These are farmers who continue to look at how to continue to adapt as it relates to what is it they're doing now and what can take the structure a little further. You have some would have started from basics, like for instance, Mackie, Danny Atherton. These are just some would have started from basic, and then now you would have seen them now looking at sensors within the houses, solar panels and so forth. You have new young comers like Richard Paris, Paris Leafy Greens. Again, he would have capitalized on the lettuce market and actually went a bit further as it relates to branding. When he first came out, he had one type of package, and now you realize now he would have converted in terms of how he packaged to a new package now. So sometimes when you go in these supermarkets, unless you know the company, or unless you peep and you see the St. Kitts Nevis flag, you will not know
that is Richard.
That it's local.
Oh, it's local.
So you will not know it's local. You have to say you have guys like Irving Pinney also, who would have ventured into the sector. We have shade houses in schools, again, that in terms of helping to introduce the school children to this technology very early. We would have benefited from quite a bit of training from FAO and so forth as it relates to greenhouse technology. Because of greenhouses, Nevis can now boast that 90% of the lettuce that is consumed, with the exception of the iceberg, is local. It's local. So Nevis could now boast on that as in terms of a leader within the region in terms of greenhouse technology. I don't think there's any island within the OACS that could rival with Nevis right now as it relates to greenhouse technology. So I would like to say kudos to those guys.
So that sounds very good. I want to take you back a little to the school children and the kind of education passing on that. Do we use people like Daniel Atherton and Mackie Trust and even Paris in the schools to train these children how to?
Yes. Okay. Like for instance, if you look at Danny's farm, Danny always have children on his farms because he likes to work within his element. So the schools always utilize his farm as a model in terms of a sustainable farm, because Then it's not just in greenhouse. You have fruit trees, you have
Yes.
vegetables and
Yes,
so forth.
yeah.
So it's a sustainable farm. If you look at, for instance, Mackie very well involved in terms of the schools and also. If you look at what he would have helped with as it relates to the Elizabeth Pemberton Primary School in terms of very critical and instrumental in terms of the school being able to be granted a shade house also. That again has been producing lettuce that actually feed within the domestic market also. Richard within itself as a young farmer, young entrepreneur, again, if you see Richard, you will not know he's a farmer. So
I know Richard well.
right? So you will not know he's a farmer. So again, we utilize them as model farmers. You also have Anthony Gager, again, who have been doing quite a bit, who would have invested significantly also. So we utilize them as model farmers. Like these are young persons, non-traditional, young, who would have taken the leap in terms of this sector.
Investment, yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, there was a time when we used to produce, and you mentioned it a little earlier, abundance of onions. We used to export to Anguilla at one time. Do we export any crop at all nowadays or we just have enough for the local use?
Well, in terms of the onions, in terms of structured export, no. One of the things being is that the consumption has grown on the island of Nevis. As a child growing up, I didn't want to see onion at all.
Yeah, they needed me.
I didn't want to see onion. You go to sports and you buy a hot dog with onion. The first thing you do, you
take out the
scoop
onions.
out the
Yes,
onions.
yes,
But you
yes.
realize now everybody's using onions,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So the demand for the local onion has increased, for one. And then one of the things that we continue to suffer with over the years is the elements of climate change. Previously, in the past, we never have enough water in Nevis to get the onion started. Previously in the past, we would have planted in the months of September, anticipating that you get that September, October, and November rain. But you realize even up to last year, rain didn't start fall until December.
Yeah, right.
So again, these are things that we have to be looking at. Again, you have external factors outside there in terms of the availability of seeds when you're ready. For seeds also. So that's again within is an external factor. Some would say we purchase the seed early, but sometimes what you find when you do that, the viability of the seeds, you lose it over time when they're on storage. So you might buy seeds in February, so you're going to plant them in September, but you realize now you would have moved your rate of germination from 80% to 50% or so forth. So again, it's something very challenging, but onion is a crop that we're going to continue to grow. Persons always look forward for local onions. I know sometimes it's difficult to get onions in supermarkets at times. I remember one supermarket, we took some onions to them and they called us to take back the onions because they had the whole supermarket smelling like onions.
Oh dear.
Because once you're using local onions, guarantee you're going to cry because you're going to bring because of the flavor inside of it. It's going to bring tears to your eyes. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the water earlier, we are coming up on a dry season and the experts are saying it could be a very dry spell for a long time. How are you preparing for this dry spell and what advice do you have for our local farmers in dealing with this dry spell that we are looking at?
Well, we continue to encourage farmers and you would have heard me mention of it is sometimes you have to stick to some of the basic concepts as it relates to farming also. We grew up seeing our parents, grandparents using grass as mulch. And again, it's a way in terms of preventing that water to be lost very quickly. So we continue to encourage persons to use mulch. You drive around Nevis now, you may not see as much grass mulch, but you're seeing a lot of these farms now covered with this black ground cover. Again, it's a weed barrier. It keeps the soil moist and so forth. and again, it helps to grow that organic matter within the soil. We also encourage some farmers, again, if you realize dry season is coming up, practices changing your planting spacing rather than going your normal distance, you plant a little closer so plants could keep each other cool. Also looking at some root crops, cassava and so forth. These crops are drought tolerant. One of the things that we want to do this year also is to starting to look at cheaper version of shaded farms.
Okay.
Right? Rather than you putting up these big, large structures, but the farmer is able to shade portion of the farms. It may not happen overnight, just like when we introduced the black ground cover. We just had about 3-4 farmers using it. And now you see a number of farmers using it. There's a farmer met me the other day. He had been farming for over 40 years. I remember when we first went to him with it, he was like, "Why no, me not use that there." And he called me and tell me, "Buy the thing work, you know? I get some good crops, you know?" So he actually got one for free, and then he went and buy 2 more.
Okay.
So again, it's not something that person is going to jump on one time, but over time, once farmers are able to see the results of these things, we do believe that they're going to adapt over time.
Yeah, catching on. Now, which crops would you say are flourishing here in Nevis at this time?
Right now in Nevis, we have a bounty crop right now of pumpkin.
Pumpkins.
You have a bounty crop of pumpkin right now. We have quite a bit of farmers with pumpkins. Again, sometimes in agriculture, and it's a discussion I had this with a farmer 2 days ago, is that there's a time when there's no pumpkin, everybody asking for pumpkin, but now they see pumpkin, they don't want pumpkin, they're looking for squash. Right? So it's very challenging at times where when there's not a product,
they want it.
They want it. And once it starts to go scarce, they have problems. Like if you look at, for instance, last year, we had significant challenge that relates to tomatoes. I know farmers would have planted up to 5 times within the year in terms of tomatoes, and just reap, like for instance, Mike Brown, and reaping maybe about 150 pounds from that 5 different crops.
Okay.
Again, the heat was such last year that you just didn't have fruits that taking place. Plants were just aborting the flowers. But we had a bounty of tomatoes from about maybe January up until now. But person not crying out for tomatoes now. Point is looking for some person asking for watermelon.
For what?
But the whole of last year, Nevis was loaded with watermelons. And then they were crying for
something else.
Yeah. So that is why it comes back to some of the demos that we do during the expo, in terms of showing people, showing our people different ways that they could utilize their products.
Okay. Now, we have a lot more restaurants now in Nevis.
Yes.
And of course, there's the hotels. Now, what sort of impact are they having on the agriculture the local farmers produce here? Are we supplying these?
Yes.
Do we have enough?
Sometimes, well, for example, and it's of no fault of theirs, a restaurant can't put the same thing on the menu every day.
That is true.
Right? So they're not going to say, okay, every day I'm going to serve pumpkin fritters.
That is true.
But sometimes one have to be creative in terms of, I have pumpkin, I'm doing pumpkin fritters today, but I may use pumpkin to do something else tomorrow.
No, true.
So that is something that I believe that some of these restaurants need to look at. I know some of the hotels, once there's something in bounty that is bountiful, some of these hotels try different ways of how to utilize it or how to marry it with a different product at their restaurants. So we do get this support from them. They prefer local. The supermarkets also, they prefer local. So we continue to encourage our farmers to produce again, but farming is not easier. And you have, I say, you have all these challenges out there where you try to look for stuff and in terms of to work. And a guy might show up by a farmer 2 days to work, might show up tomorrow, and the third day tell him by his son to have. Right? And these are real issues that our farmers are faced out there. So sometimes farmers really want to grow more, but in terms of being able to have that supporting labor, sometimes it is not there. Sometimes again you have these strange weathers, and as they call it, climate change. A farmer might anticipate that during this year we're planting X. Like for instance, we within the ministry, we might anticipate this year, this is the work program. So we start planning, looking at, okay, what is the work program for next year? So you look at the work program, and then last month you saw a report coming out that from the end of March running right down, it's going to be very dry. So again, we have to go back to our drawing board. We have to go back to the drawing board. And sometimes for, even as a government, sometimes the adaptive process is slow, because sometimes government don't have the capital to make that change one time. Sometimes farmers don't have the capital to make that change one time. So again, these are all factors that we are faced with. Plus, you have the monkeys out there.
Yes. Farming is you have to have a love for farming to go into farming. That's why I think the ones who are successful are so successful, because they love what they're doing. You know, you have the worker you speak of who will turn up 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and then they start to complain for sun and all kind of thing, because the love is not really there. They need some money, so they do something. You have to have the love. Now, a few years back, the Department of Agriculture was focusing on building some storage space to store the excess agricultural produce that was harvested. The Larrington Perry building was part of that effort. Efforts were made to store produce at the river as well. Is there any additional storage being looked at this time, or the department feels that it has enough storage for now?
No, there's never enough storage. And when the storage facility in Nevis came from a long history, from looking at where you pay your Nevlec bill currently. That facility was actually an agriculture building.
I remember.
I remember well. You're old enough to remember that?
Yeah, I remember well.
Right, so that facility was actually an agriculture facility where storage was on there. And as Nevis developed, again, we were able to do the facility there in town. That's right behind the public market. Mr. Daniel Atherton was quite a part of that, along with the farmers group, Nevis Growers, that they were able to put 2 chill rooms there. Over the years, we realized that there were challenges in terms of spoilage, in terms of looking at one chill having about 3, 4, 5 different products. Some products are producing this gas we call ethylene that's going to ripen up some of the other products. So farmer spoilage there, you're looking sometimes from 30 to 60% spoilage. Again, we would have had discussions. We would have brought the data to the minister, Alexis Jeffers. So we would have brought the data in terms of this is the problem that we are currently facing, and we would have pitched our proposal as it relates to having a facility that could store. At that point in time, monies were scarce, but we realized that we had to do it in the interest of the farmers and the people of Nevis to ensure that we have food. And as a result, we were able to find funding to do a 6-chill compartment with the capacity of storing roughly up to about 30,000 kg of food. We now would have seen spoilage move from 30-60% now to about 10% and sometimes less, because now we're able to store products together on the different temperatures. One of the other thing, the last thing that we have to work now on that facility is also a dry storage, because at the time when we constructed that, it right in COVID. So funds were not there for us to be able to do the dry storage. So it's something that we're working on now. That again, we'll be able to now store like your pumpkin, your squash and those sort of things in dry storage. There's actually a facility, as you mentioned, in New River. Again, that facility would have been gifted to the New River Farmers Group from ECA under the leadership of Augustine Merchant. We from the ministry would have made contribution. Former PSU Sergeant would have ensured that that chill was always up and running. We would have made contribution in terms of servicing the chill to make sure that the farmers in New River had somewhere to store the food. There is actually a facility in Case Bay now. It's an old building, but there's also a farmers group in Case Bay in terms of led by Mr. Dan Liebert. And again, Mr. Daniel Atherton is part of that group. So one of the things that that group is also looking at it again is to have some storage there in Case Bay also to help to facilitate those farmers within that area. Truth be told, when you look at our facility, and that's the thing I would have come to realize. Sometimes we have things and we don't appreciate. We had some persons from Sinkits, we have some from other groups, and when they look at our facility, well, to us it was nothing, but to them it was like wow. So it was actually something that some of these other islands, we had groups from St. Martin, Anguilla, Antigua again last year, and these are just simple things that they're looking at to help to model in terms of implementing within the different countries.
So we're small, but we tell.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Now, we have spoken about agriculture all evening, but we have mentioned the Indian Castle Fruit Farm. And that's a place I like to go, and I believe have tremendous potential. Tell us a little about what's happening at the Indian Castle. I mean, I know we planted a number of coconut trees, and they are now thriving. What else is thriving at Indian Castle?
You have nuts currently. Plants are fruiting currently at Indian Castle. We would have had the challenges there again at Indian Castle. Again, in terms of monkeys, you had a period where you would have had some staff leaving also. So you'd have had all those setbacks in terms of Indian Castle. So sometimes, like in terms of bringing a whole new crew to help to pick up where the former crew would have left off. So all these things would be some setbacks. Again, but you have production there. You have some of the trees that were established, like for instance the gooseberry. We are now harvesting those in terms of to make fruits for cakes and so forth at agro processing, making snacks and those sort of things. We also have a plot there in terms of and you would have heard it throughout the news, the Tabasco peppers also. So we utilize that site again also as a somewhat of a demonstration / a research site to see how these peppers will perform under these conditions, knowing that Indian Castle is very harsh. Again, we had last year, you had the issues in terms of the scarcity of water, and again that would have affected some of the plants also, knowing that there were water rationing and these sort of things. So there was a number of challenges facing the Indian Castle estate, but it's not an excuse in terms of not being able to produce. We are, as I said before, we are people of resilience. We are people who can do things. And I do believe that, again, Indian Castle, once we're able to now have these new set of workers mesh appropriately, then we'll be able to do some things on there. We are also looking at in terms of independent and water source for Indian Castle, because currently, once you turn on the water down there, it's affecting the persons in Holly's Road. So sometimes you turn on to water and then you have to shut off the water because Upper Hanley's Road don't get any water.
Okay.
So now so we're actually looking at a new water source that will be able to feed Indian Castle directly.
Tell us a little about the coconuts, because that was a big thing for Indian Castle.
As I said, the coconuts are there. Again, one of the things that why the coconuts would have came in, because we realize, again, coconut water is a lucrative business on the island of Nevis. And sometimes it's difficult sometimes when you look at all your foreign money leaving your shores. And we have the view, I'm of the view that let your foreign money purchase something that you cannot do.
True.
Right? So I think former minister would have, Jeffers would have had these same sentiments. So these trees were established. Again, one of the things we are going to do now is to harvest some of these nuts as it relates to being able to now propagate new plants and also and to expand. Because we realize that outside of some of the Windward Islands, you realize that from the model that we did here in terms of the coconut tree orchard, the coconut tree grove, you're seeing now persons now looking in that direction in terms of establishing these. Because basically all the plantations you saw in Nevis, those are planted before our time.
Yes.
So again, so you're seeing this now, you're seeing farmers are now showing interest also in terms of establishing pure stands. So we'll be very supportive of these farmers as it relates to materials and these sort of things in terms of having coconut trees back on the landscape of the island of Nevis. Being able to consume fresh coconut water at an affordable cost also.
Sounds good. Now, we know that once AgroFest is over, you have other activities coming up in 2025. So tell our listeners and viewers what they can look forward to from the Department of Agriculture for the rest of 2025. In a nutshell, really.
In a nutshell, we have the May month of activities coming up. That's when we celebrate Agriculture Awareness Month. So we have some activities on that. Those are not fully planned out as yet. Right in the heart of culture, the Friday before the cultural weekend, we have the Food Festival. Again, the location has not been identified as yet. Last year we were at the waterfront in town. The previous year we were at Malcolm Gishard Park. So we did both events in one space. Again, it's something that we're probably looking at again this year for the Food Festival. And again, it's an event where it's all fruits. Fruit eating competition, cakes in terms of utilizing fruits, cake might be a cake with the base of pineapple, etc. So these are things that we have been doing. And then you have in October, you have the World Food Day activities. Again, plans for that one is a little sketchy right now, knowing that St. Kitts Nevis will be hosting Caribbean Week of Agriculture this year, also in October. So right after open day, right after the expo, now we have to go into those phases to look at some of those logistics with our counterparts from St. Kitts, because again, St. Kitts Nevis will be hosting Caribbean Week of Agriculture, and there's where you have all the ministers from agriculture throughout the entire Caribbean, technocrats, allied agencies from throughout the region. So all of them now will be coming to our shows in October.
Great. Speaking of October, there was one October a couple of years ago where you had the ministers' cook-off, which I thought was very, very interesting and lively. But I haven't seen it again. What's
some of our ministers try to cook. I assume some
I did like the ideas. I thought that should have been kept up, even if not the ministers, maybe permanent secretaries, maybe directors. You know what I mean? But I thought it was a nice initiative. You know, speaking of the initiative, are there any new initiatives that we can look forward to from agriculture for 2025?
Well, for 2035, as I said, we are looking at different ways in terms of helping to combat the ever-changing climate and this heat. This heat again is significantly affecting the sector. significantly affecting the livelihoods of our farmers. This year again, we were looking to make some bold moves as it relates to small ruminants. Again, when you look at some of the weights of animals going to the abattoir, animals might be 2 years, but when you're dressing out, you're just getting about 22 pounds. So this year, we already identified the source and so forth in terms of the purchasing of some small ruminants. So farmers now, within the next 2 years now, we'll be able to purchase animals and so forth, where just out weight now we move from 18 to 25 pounds, you're looking at about 40 to 45 pounds at a younger age. So it's something that we realize that we have to do. Again, it's all an effort for food security. Again, to ensure that our people have access to safe, healthy food.
Okay, great. I remember a couple of years ago, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers was bringing in some special type of goats, some big breed goats. I forget what they call them. What become of that initiative, really? The goats were there. It wasn't much. We still have one of them right now. We have quite a bit of offsprings around the island of Nevis. But again, we do believe that you could only use it for breeding for quite some time. So again, we're looking at now in terms of being able now to changing the goat, and also looking at new breeds. Again, it was a Dorper that's white with a brown head, but we're now looking at new breeds also. We already would have constructed the facility in terms of being able to house them. So right now we're just waiting for electricity and security within the area before we make the purchase. Oh, okay, great. Now the final thing I wanted to ask you is the possibility of expanding one or two areas in agriculture who I think is doing very well. That is the abattoir. I believe the time has come for us to really make it. I mean, we're doing some wonderful work at the abattoir. Gary and his boys is doing some wonderful work. But I believe we could expand the thing and start serve other small little islands around us, you know, exporting.
Yeah, the abattoir is a model.
Yes, and the agro-processor unit as well. They do some excellent work, but we now need to go to the next level.
Yeah, the abattoir is a model within the region. In 2018, we commissioned the new wing, the processing wing. Remember, initially when the abattoir was constructed in 1984, it was just a slaughtering house.
I remember.
Right? And then over the years, we would have expanded with a cutting room. Then we would have expanded with a tripe room. Then we also expanded now in 2018 with the processing room. Again, is it large enough? No. But again, it's within the constraints that we have. One of the things that we're looking for this year, and it came out of observations last year, because last year Christmas was crazy. You realize that we have to do some work in the holding area. So again, that's within the proposals for this year to do some expansion on that. As it relates to agro processing, yes, we strongly agree. Again, initially when the plant was constructed, in terms of the scope, in terms of what it's doing now, was different to initially when it was constructed. And so we already have sketches as it relates to a new wing in terms of the processing plant. The wing would use solely for purpose of processing, while the current, and that's within the proposed plan, the current area we just use for processed products. But the new wing will include the hydrating room, floral room, pulping room, and these sort of things. Again, so it's something that we are hoping that we could start this year. So we have the sketches already, but again, a lot of this is hinged on in terms of being able to finance these proposals.
But we need an expansion in facilities, yes. But I was speaking more about the expansion in the quantity. We already have the quality.
Well,
the quantity.
well.
So
To
we able
be
to
honest,
serve.
to be honest with you, when you look at the agro processing, there's not much more could be done from the small space.
Exactly.
Like during the Christmas season, the facility supplies major outlets here in the island, major supermarkets, major hotels, Four Seasons, Park Hyatts, etc. And for these ladies to be able to, and the guys to be able to meet the demand, they had to be working double shift. So you had one staff coming in the day and one staff coming in night, because again, you can't run all the process at the same time.
Right.
So you may come in the morning, staff in the morning may be working on one thing, and then the staff that came in the afternoon work on the other thing. And again, all this is because of the limitation of space, and the scope of the facility would have now grown significantly compared to when it was initially constructed.
That is true. That's why you
Yes.
put on your thinking cap, and then we
Yes.
hope that in 2026 we are seeing.
Yes,
2025 go by, but
But the product
Let's
is
make-
there. The product is
yes,
there.
and the quality is there as well.
The quality is there, and I think one of the other issues that the abattoir is currently faced with, and it's not the ability to, it's not to say that they don't have the ability to do more, is the availability of the raw product. Because sometimes you may get for instance, an order for beef, for ground beef, but if you don't have the cattle, right? So again, that is why we are looking to do some significant work as it relates to the livestock sector, because the abattoir needs raw product
Yes.
in order for it to function. It needs raw product.
Agree. Let's make it happen.
Yes.
Folks, we have come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. Mr. Elliott, I want to thank you very much for being my guest this evening, especially at such short notice. And I want to give you your final words to our listening and viewing audience.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for having me this evening on the behalf of the Department and Ministry of Agriculture. Just like to say thank you. As we approach the dates of the Agri Expo, we are hoping, and all who are listening, we're inviting you to the ETW Park. That's next week, Thursday and Friday. Again, it's an experience. It's just not something, an event that you go to, but it's an experience. And that's one of the things that we always market it as, an experience. It's an experience like no other. So we're inviting the seniors, the young, the children. There's something there for all to be done for those seniors, again, who come on the shop. We also have golf carts on the ground, in terms of being able to take your own and so forth. For persons who are doing like backyard gardens, and who have some difficulty, like we said, the crops not growing, they could walk with some small sample of the soil. Then we'll be able to do some small soil testing there for you also. So it's an opportunity for persons who want to come to shop, persons who want to come to learn, persons who want to come and check out something, persons who are looking guidance, persons who just want to learn, persons who just want to meet and greet a friend. Right? The place is the ETW Park, next week, Thursday and Friday. Again, we're welcoming one and all. And let us all together try our best to support local, eat local, and also grow your own food.
That's a good note to end on. Folks, like I said, we have come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. Join us again next week when we shall do it all over again. Do enjoy the rest of the evening's programming. Then have a pleasant night's rest. Good night.